Hello, good people, and happy time of the day that you have the time of the day and the freedom to be able to listen to this. It's real early for me. Still getting the cold out my voice, so you may or may not recognize the difference. But in any case, welcome and thank you for joining me here today. You could be listening to anything, doing anything other than listening to me. So I appreciate your valuable time, the most precious resource that we have. My name is Mackins Ardina, and I am the founder of 11 Kilometers Per Second. We are a mindset coaching. We primarily focus on Black men, but everything that I talk about is applicable to most human beings. Well, not everything. There are certain things that, are more, I guess, pertinent to Black men. I am a Black man, and therefore I know some things about what I deal with, and therefore what I imagine others like myself deal with. But in any case, 11 kilometers per second is known as the escape velocity, the speed at which something must move to escape Earth's gravity and soar into the heavens. Oh shoot, my folk, you see my folk appearing in my video over here, so let me remove them. Might have to. All right, there's a better screen over here, so we're not. So I talked to you guys about the push, accountability group that I'm part of. So right now it's 5 in the morning, and I usually meet up and chat with folks. All of us are working on whatever it is that we're working on right now. I happen to be recording a podcast, a monologue of what my thoughts that I hope that will help you, because those are the thoughts that I'm revelations that I'm having, that I'm using to help myself. In any case, today what I want to talk to you about is the meaning of life, in essence. Not necessarily the meaning of life, because maybe that's what it is that I think it is, because I don't know, and no one should ever tell you that they actually do know. But I can tell you that just based on the evidence of what I can see that's happening in this world, the way we were built, the way it seems like it was designed, either by someone or by all of us, in essence, is that it seems like it's a game that we're here to play. And so what exactly is the point of the game? Because I think that is exactly what makes you happy. Now, I do believe that once you leave this game, and we all have to leave it, otherwise this game would not be worth living, right? I talk about the idea of heaven. There's this Star Trek, I forget which one it was. I think it's one of the movies with Picard. If you guys watch Star Trek, I don't know if you do. If you're younger, probably have no idea what the hell. No, there's some new Star Trek stuff, but any case, like there's one where I think it was one where Picard and Captain Kirk are both in the movie, and he supposedly gets dropped off in a place where it's supposed to be heaven. And so in heaven there's no fear of anything bad happening, so like he's doing his thing, and I think he does this dangerous leap, and then they talk about there's no fear, no apprehension, like nothing, because he knows nothing bad could ever happen. And so, my feeling is that if you live in the world where it was perfect, what we're aiming for, that would be a complete series of, that would be so boring. Like, right? Like, imagine, I've talked to my sister about this, because, we had our moms pass a couple years back, and, she questioned why it was that, we lose loved ones. And I'm like, death is actually what gives life meaning. Imagine if no one that you love would ever die. Imagine that you knew that you would never die. Who would care? You have a baby, and it's like, all right, you're good. I don't have to worry about you whether or not you're going to die. We wouldn't care about those precious times. We wouldn't sit here and care about anybody or anything. And so death is what gives the game any sense of, meaning. Now, this is not to say that this is the whole meaning of life, but we'll talk about that, what the whole meaning of life is, or what makes you happy while you're here. This is the thing. I think, all right, so let's talk about, yeah, actually, the truth is that there are two different, yes, they are different. What makes you happy and the meaning of life. So, okay, it looks like my handlebars are pointing forward. In any case, the meaning of life, I think, is to experience it, right? It's to have, if you were to take that we are all gods, for example, if you take this theory, it's the prevailing one that I'm going with, like we are all parts of the universe. I mean, literally we are, right? Because, our parts are made of, supposedly, this is all theory actually. So literally in theory, we are all made from the same thing that came out from the Big Bang, right? But we do see that, all atoms, electrons, gluons, all those little things break down to like the smallest particles, and they appear to be the same thing, rearranged in different placements of themselves. And so, it seems plausible based on what we know that we are all the same things, right? And so, assuming that we are all gods, we are all part of the same thing, then I believe that what we have done, in essence, when we are trying to live this life, is to give ourselves a physical form that allows us to experience this world. Okay, let's work with that theory. Like, we're now experiencing this world, so all of the things that come along with it, all of the sights that we get to see, all of the smells, all of the things that we hear right now. I'm hearing birds because it's warmer in the background. I'm hearing, cacophony of bird sounds, owls chirping, and all this other stuff. And, all of that stuff, like that, we at some point get too deep into whatever persona that we're currently living in to appreciate and to even notice, because like we're deep into thinking about some crap. And typically all of it has to deal with whether or not we're worthy, right? And all of that, and I'll explain to you exactly why. And I have another video where I discuss like worthiness being the thing that causes all of the bad things that happen in this life, right? Whether we are worthy. And I talk about also why it is in fact the case that just you being on this earth and then, getting to have the same experiences, the same love, the same opportunities for the most part, the same, feelings, the same physical pain, the same, all of that stuff it happens to be the only currency, the only real currency. Everything else is human beings, not the gods on us, but the human beings collectively coming together for one random ass reason or another and saying, here's what we value. All right. And, while on earth, that has meaning, but it's not actually what gives you worth. It has meaning. It gives you certain things. So, for example, what it can give you is you finding the value in what it is that I say is valuable, because I've come together and said that's a valuable thing. We say gold is valuable. I make a little piece of paper and put designs on it and say, yeah, that's valuable. We use it as a medium of exchange of value. And so if I come together and say, hey, while on earth, this is what's valuable, and you want to get that value so that you can do something with it, so it becomes meaningful, not necessarily saying that you have more worth than another person. Now, this is important because, we're going to talk about this. Freedom is one of the most important things that we need to have in this earth to have the kind of experiences that we want and value. And this is why, like, a lot of times, we're confusing money with, the material things that it buys us. A lot, and poor people do this a lot more than wealthy people, right? Because, wealthy people, for the most part, they're like, they're incognito, they're inconspicuous, right? They're not out there, they're not showy because they're not their aim. All of us are competing, right? But let's say you're in a group of nerds, like of really intelligent, smart people. Like you guys might be competing on all the knowledge that you have and the math problems you can solve. If you're in amongst a group of people who can afford everything in the world, you're not necessarily competing against all the stuff that you can buy. Oh, here's the stuff that I have, because it's like we all can buy all of that stuff. I mean, maybe, at some point, some folks are like, hey, here's how big my yacht is and that sort of thing. But like, they stop competing on the things that, regular folks like you and I are competing on, because that's not necessarily the important things. But what's important with money is the freedom it affords you to go get up and say, hey, I'm going to get up and do a podcast. I'm going to get up and not do anything. I'm going to get up and go play with my family, whatever it is. I don't have to feel like I have to work to pay a bill. I don't have to feel like I have to work to feed myself and my family. I don't have to do any of that, because I have accumulated that value. And this is why work initially is very important. But it's not enough, right? It's not enough. It's not going to, we talked about this again, with Will Smith in the Worthiness episode. It's not enough to make you feel the sense of worth that a lot of us are sitting here struggling for. I believe that just as death is part of the game that's been given, the sense of worth is given to complex beings, like not just human beings, complex. You can see it in dogs, for example, how they're always looking to see whether or not, they're worthy. Can you give me the affection? Can you assure me that you love me? We are doing this, from the minute that we can really understand that sort of thing, as human beings and as social beings. Okay. And so the topic is, what does it take to make you happy? And a lot of us are sitting here like thinking, what it would take to make me happy would be, money and, the ability to do all of, like, to not struggle. Many of us are assuming that it's the ability to not struggle. Again, that is a very different thing than freedom. The ability to not struggle is different than freedom. Freedom, from my perspective, is the ability to choose which struggle. But struggle, you must. I believe also that struggle is part of the pieces, the features of this game that we must embrace in order to actually, be happy. We must embrace it. And so let me tell you the two things. Now, I've been touching upon them, but I want to just name them out and then start to describe them and start to talk about why they're true. Because, you can have whatever ideas. And this is an issue. This is part of the reason I do this, because a lot of times I feel people have they've come up with a reason for something and don't really give a real reason for it, or reason for something. Don't really explain it. It just is like, and they think they have, but they haven't. And they haven't because they haven't given you all enough concrete reason to solidify it. Because in my mind, I'm still skeptical, because I can find all the different ways that this may not be true. And so you're just going to say, this is it. And then I'm supposed to just believe it. And so I want to explain a little bit more. And this is why, partly why I do what I do, again, because I'm a skeptic. I think like a skeptic. And so I'm explaining this from a skeptic's point of view. If you happen not to be a skeptic, here's a reason. The thing is that it can solidify and give you more support, more corroborating support that what you believe already is the truth. So there are two things that are required to make you happy in this world. And happy is a loaded word, but this is why I'm combining it with meaning of the world, because meaning of this life is because I'm not just talking about happy for now, whatever that real term is, because sometimes you have that happy for now, and I'll talk about that short-term happy as well. Let me just get these two things out, because I've been holding them on too long. The two things are gratitude and freedom. Gratitude and freedom. All right. Now, gratitude, a lot of people talk about this all the time. like, because you can, like, gratitude is really a perspective, right? Like, you're alive. There are people who are not. There are, like, people on this earth that just have it so much worse than you do, especially if you're in, the Western world. But even if you're not, like, you're alive, you're getting to experience the beauties that are part of this experience of being a human being and being on this earth. Like, all of this stuff, if you have that as a perspective, you can be happier, right? As opposed to, like, looking at all of the things that are going wrong. If you think about all the things that could potentially go wrong in this earth on a daily basis, the things that you hear on the news that are actually rare, that's why they are on the news, that did not happen to you on any given day. Yes, there are some bad things that are going to happen to people, but on any given day, if one of those things happen to you, and not all of them, if you're still here on this earth getting to experience this, you can take a look at that and be grateful. But I submit to you that it is beyond just looking at, the good things that are happening in your life, the material things that you have, the times that you spent with your, loved ones. Those are the easy things. And yes, those are the things that you must actually look at if you want to start, if you're going down a path of, like, self-pity and all that good stuff. Those are easy things, easy low-hanging fruits that you can start to think about to, think about and be grateful. But what I'm saying is, like, gratitude is also just appreciating every single piece of this struggle that you have. Like, whatever it is that you're currently dealing with, when you can say, wow, I'm so glad I'm getting to deal with this. Again, like, not again, but if you think about the people who are strong, the kind of places, the kind of person you want to be, the kind of person of character, the kind of man of character that you want to be, those are people who have gone through hard things and overcome them, right? Those are not people who have had life easy. When we're talking about rags to riches and all that good stuff, those are people who have gone through some stuff and say, hey, I survived it. I'm bigger. A strong person lifts heavy stuff. They do hard things. And so if you're even thinking about it from a standpoint, like, one of the things that I like to do, and I actually recommend it to folks, is to be like, yo, when I'm at the top, here's the story I'm going to get to tell. Here's how hard it was for me and how I overcame. So when you're thinking about it that way, that's one of the ways that you can appreciate the struggle that you're going through at that particular moment. That part, whatever it is part of what makes you, what can make you happy. Like Stephen Hawking, the something physicist. He's some kind of physicist. I don't forget which kind of physicist, but, like, one of the smartest dudes in the world, who was, like, paraplegic since he was very young. I don't remember what age. But one of the things that, like, he's one of the most happy people. And when you talk about perspective, boy, the guy literally cannot move. He can't talk. He talks through a computer. Right? This guy talks to a computer, and yet he's one of the most happiest people on this earth, because he said he was, at the time when he was diagnosed, he was given, I don't know, 6 months, some kind of short amount of time to live. And so what he says is everything past that has been, basically like icing. It's like, I forget exactly what his quote is, basically a bonus or something like that. Now, imagine that perspective. This is a guy who cannot do most of the things. The only thing that he can do literally is think, right? He can't do and can't experience all of the things you get to experience. And he's like, this is a bonus. That's a perspective where I'm like, I'm with the struggle and I still appreciate having to be on this earth. That, my friend, is what I'm talking about with gratitude. And that is not something that's easy to get. It's easy to do, especially if you lean negative, which some people would say that I do. I feel like I'm more practical, but I would even say practical is not even good. Like, optimism is the way to go.
The world belongs to optimists. Because if you're going to do anything big, you have to believe that it can happen. Otherwise, it never will.
That Sean Puri thing. The cynics get to be right and the optimists get to be rich.
99% right and 100% wrong. They're right 99% of the time, but they're wrong 100% because the only thing that matters is the big one at the end.
But if you lean, and I think most people on this earth, like I think we are all designed, and that's part of the features of this game as well. We're designed to think negatively, right? To see all the bad, and for good reason. Again, the biggest priority for a human being is to survive, or for an animal is to survive, right? And if I'm sitting here all optimistic about everything that's happening, I'm not taking precautions because, all I have to do is be wrong once. And if it's a fatal decision or a fatal error that I made, then I'm dead. And so we are predisposed to thinking negatively so that we're like, okay, everything can go wrong, even when it, most of the time, the truth is that it doesn't. It's just the truth. Like most of the time, things are actually good for us on a day-to-day basis, considering all the things that can go wrong. And so we're predisposed to being negative, but this is what I mean. It's hard for you to do that, but that's what the practice has got to be. And that's part of all of this game. It's the practice of actually learning to appreciate, to have gratitude for all the things that are going wrong. This is why the people who meet some kind of challenge, right? And this is your job. You have to fight yourself. You have to fight a challenge every time, because that's what we need, right? This is what I was talking about with like the world being boring. Like we're meant to find challenges. We're meant to find, like, we will be bored to tears if we did not have challenges in our lives. And that's why everybody has problems. It doesn't matter where you are. Somebody is going to create a problem in their own head. Rich Paris Hilton types are creating problems in their heads because they need something to solve. And, again, this is part of like the whole thing of being worthy. Being wealthy does not make you feel like you're worthy. It's not enough. Everything gets calibrated and becomes relative to one thing or another. And the reason is, let me give you the reason for this. And this might be one of the most important parts of this little monologue here is the reason of this one. The reason for this is that, being worthy is by definition a comparison thing, right? This like you have to compare. Like imagine if you were the only person, or like if you were if you were Adam and Eve and you only had all right, so most people I imagine listening to this, most people listening to this based on my audience is knows Adam and Eve. Like imagine there was only Cain. It wasn't Cain and Abel. There was only Cain. You had Adam and Eve. You had Cain. Who am I comparing myself to with respect to to my parents' love, right? There's nobody else to compare myself. Like, okay, they either love me in one way or another. Like, you don't start to feel any sense of lack of self-worth. If, for example, your parents are scolding you, first of all, what would they, like, even the way we treat people is based on comparison, right? Like, what would they be scolding Cain for, right? Like, likely it would just be like, because there's like, they would not be like, hey, Cain, you have to go up and become somebody. Like, this is part of the reason why parents are like forcing their kids to read and do all this other stuff. Oh, you've got to be good. I mean, ultimately, a lot of our parents, a lot of us included, are like, here's how I'm going to look to my friends if you behave a certain way. If you don't come up with, go to the best schools, go do this. Like, it's all a competition, and we're comparing ourselves to their kids or to them, and then their kids to our kids. And so a lot of the things that we're pushing them to go do, a lot of things that, to bring back to the analogy that Adam and Eve would have to tell Cain, is based on other people, right? Otherwise, it'd just be like, I need you to be able to feed yourself. I'm going to teach you how to feed yourself. All right. You know how to farm, you know how to fish, whatever it is. Okay. You're good. Like all right, boom. Nothing else. Like, I don't need to go and push you to do anything else. And so comparison is is the definition of that self-worth. So hence, you know, this is exactly what it is that we do. We're comparing ourselves to people. It's by its very nature what self-worth is based off. Like, nobody is sitting here, and this is one of the memes that you see around is like, you know, you don't compare a fish to, if a fish can't, or something like, I'm screwing it up, I don't know, but like a fish that can't climb a tree, you're not going to say it's worth nothing or something to that effect, right? Essentially being, you know, we don't compare two types of animals, you know, a cat to a fish in essence, like, but you know, we come in when we're trying to feel some sense of self-worth is to start to compare ourselves with other people. And so this is, you know, this is something, again, I feel like is a feature. It also allows us to go in and strive. It allows us to use the brain that's also given to us as human beings to figure out how to be better. Okay, I'm going to be better. I'm going to try to be better. And so, well, it's not something that we should try to get rid of. It's not something that's easily gotten rid of. It's not like, oh, you know, like a lot of people will just tell you, all right, you know, you just shouldn't care about what other people think, or you shouldn't compare yourself. No, you know, like the whole old saying, like comparison is a killer of joy. Yes, this is absolutely true. And then it's be like, okay, just stop doing it. No, that's not going to happen. We are who we are. We're built the way we're built. And so what you should do, and what some people have actually also suggested, is like, you can compare yourself, to your ideal, right? You have to compare yourself to your ideal self and continue to try to be better than you were the day before. And if you get into that game, that's a game that, you know, you can win. It's a game that doesn't, you know, rob you of your peace, you know, and it's a game where you can, you know, continue to be grateful without necessarily, you know, feeling a need to be better than other people, because this could be, you know, trying to be better than other people could be very problematic, right? Like, because let's think a little bit more about the comparison thing. Like, a lot of times we're not even, like, when you're sitting here trying to be better, you're not even, or not trying to be better, wanting to feel better than other people, because you're comparing. You're not actually doing anything other than comparing. When that happens, this is also very key here. When that happens, a lot of times, this is why you'll sit here and have an argument with somebody. I know I've been, you know, guilty of this. You'll have an argument with somebody. No, you're wrong. But because that person will feel like they're better than you, you'll continue to fight that fight, knowing you're wrong. If you really think about it, when we are, and this is actually, there's a study about this. It was like, they looked at people and said, you know what, would you rather to make $50,000 and everybody else makes $50,000? Or would you make $150,000 and know that everybody makes $250,000? A whole bunch of folks decided it was going to be 50 and everybody else makes 50. So the point is that they don't really care to do good. They care how other people are doing. That, again, that's the comparison. If you think about this, like, a lot of the times what we're doing is, you know, we don't want other people, like, who do you think you are? The whole concept of who do you think you are, right? Like, let's look at that word, those words. Who do you think you are? Not who do I think, who do you think I am? I mean, there's an element of that. It's like, do you know who I am? And all of that, some people would say that as the, you know, I guess the alternate version of that. But ultimately, it's like, what we're saying is, how dare you think you're better than me, right? A lot of times, if you think about this, like we've been in these situations when it's like, I just don't want that person to think this way of me. I mean, this is the thing you can least control. You can't go in and be like, I'm just going to change your thoughts, right? But that's what is angering us. It's not like we're sitting here a lot of times knowing we're bums, right? Knowing we haven't done something that we should have done. But how dare you think that of me? As opposed to how do I come out and do some things that I know that I want to do? That's why it's got to be a self-comparison. This is how you avoid comparing yourself to yourself, is how you avoid, you know, is how you because there's like a dichotomy here, right? On the one hand, you know, people will tell you don't care about what other people think, and if you were, and you could do that, because a lot of times the things that make us mad as we're trying to be worthy, because I was thinking about this yesterday, one of the things that disturbs your peace or prevents you from enjoying the moment, right? Because like, you know, Eckhart Tolle, which is an author, spiritualist, whatever he is, that talks about the power of now. And like being happy means like being in the moment, appreciating that moment. Because a lot of times we're living in our heads. And most of the times, 99.99% of the times, it's because of some feeling of unworthiness, right? We're either thinking, what's the word? We're either fantasizing about who we want to be, how we want things to be so that we can feel worthy, or we're lamenting and being not disgruntled, but being angry or indignant about something that somebody felt about us and said about us or whatever, and we're sitting there thinking about that. We don't live in the present, appreciating this, and so that's disturbing to our mind. And so one of the ways that you can do that is just be like, shit, I don't give a fuck. There are a lot of things, for example, that we don't give a fuck about. Like, we don't care. And once we don't care, you can think this all day. Like, there's so many things that somebody could say about you, can feel about you. It's like, oh, you're not a person who does this. It's like, well, that's one of the things that I don't care about. Okay. So if you can develop a whole bunch of things like that, you know, in real life, like a whole bunch of folks say that they don't care, but it's not that they actually don't care. They actually care. They're just saying it. But there are things that people just don't care about. It's like, oh, go ahead, whatever. I don't want to be that. And you can develop that as well. That's one way. But if you actually do care, if this is one of the things that you want to be, that's when you have to be like, that's when you have to figure out the dichotomy of, okay, how do I both care and not be affected or not care? How do I both care and not care? How do I not be affected by somebody's thoughts and still, you know, be able to do what's necessary, care enough to improve? Right. And so if you think about it, 9 times out of 10, when you're caring about what somebody else says, it's because of, you know, what you think they will think of you. Right. It's like, forget what these, like, first of all, again, you cannot change somebody's thoughts. You can, but really it's because you've changed yourself in the actions or the results that you got, right? So if, for example, somebody says you don't do math well, in their minds they're thinking you don't do math well. Easy example. And now you study math and now you're easily getting the math. You're doing mental math problems. You're getting high grades in math. Like, if they still hold that same belief, they're stupid, right? Because clearly you have proven that you can do the math. But for you to be like, well, I just want you to believe, because some kids, human beings, this is what we do. I just want you to believe differently. I'm not going to have any reason to, I'm not going to show you any proof that you're wrong, but I just want you to have a different belief. And so when it is that your thing is, I want you to change your mind. If you are thinking, okay, this person thinks of me this way and that bothers you, this is when you be like, I don't care how that person thinks of me. It doesn't matter. I know I'm worthy enough. I know I'm capable. I know when it comes to worthiness, that person doesn't have anything more. He's not able to feel any bigger feelings. He's not able to experience the world any better than I am. I'm getting all of that. He's not worthy or more worthy than me. Now I need to say, is this something that I want to do? Okay, fine. I know that it's going to take me time to get there, and I'm cool. I'm comfortable. I'm going to give myself enough grace to get to the point where that becomes me. I'm going to do the step-by-step things that's going to make me get to that point. I'm going to improve daily. And as a result, you can care about the improve daily and at the same time know that what you're stuck on is that person's feeling. How dare they feel better than me? Well, they can feel whatever they want. It doesn't make it true. And so that's number one is, gratitude. And you're able to have that power of now gratitude, that look at all the beautiful things that are happening right now attitude, by practicing every single time that you are going to, that you start to feel, some sort of some lack of worthiness, somebody feeling they're better than you, some comparison, all of that stuff, you're going to push that back and you're going to appreciate everything that's happening right now. You're going to appreciate your ability to live in this earth. You're going to appreciate the struggle, the quote unquote struggle that you are experiencing, because it's all part of it. That's number one, gratitude. All right. Now, the second piece is freedom. Again, so I started talking about freedom, and freedom, part of the reason why you need to go work your ass off to get the finances, is to be able to be free to have all kinds of experiences, travel, go out. Like white people, I'm telling you, bro, part of the reason why they do this well is because they have the funds, but like they are the ones who are doing all kinds of fucking dope shit. When I was a young person, skiing is not something I did. All the things that we try to give our kids as experiences, all the things that, if you're a person who is less fortunate or not necessarily experiencing, climbing mountains and all that stuff, or, going out on, paddle boat and whatever the heck the thing is. It's like all of those things are experiences in the world that you should be able to have because they're available to you. And that is part of, being able to be on this earth. And so that's one of the reasons why you would want to work towards your financial freedom. That's the biggest thing, to be able to experience this world, nothing else. And then the next thing is for you to be free in terms of yourself, right? Like accepting yourself is freedom. Like when you can find groups of people that where you will present yourself, your most authentic self, your good, your bad. Like this is what your family does, right? That's why you feel most comfortable with your family. But if you approach every situation where you're like, here's who I am, here's everything, here's it, but being also understand that you're also pushing to be your ideal self. So that means you're looking to be a good person, right? You're loving, and you're asking people to love and accept who you truly are. And that's loving yourself and accepting who you truly are is love and freedom for yourself as well. But you're saying, because I'm presenting myself as myself, because I've already accepted myself, I'm not going to try to be any different than anybody else. Here's who I am. I'm going to present myself as that. And I'm asking you to love that. And the people who are able to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to take that in, that, my friend, is freedom. That, my friend, is freedom. Okay. And so that's what you're looking for is that kind of freedom for yourself. When you can have that kind of freedom of you being yourself and loving, as a result, that's the freedom that we're talking about. So yeah, loved and being loved. I've heard other people say that, but that's one of the things that my wife has like been droning on, or used to drone on a lot. It's like loved, like the whole purpose of life is loving and being loved. And loving, I understood, right? Loving is, like when you have somebody, like, I mean, most of us have experienced love, like, and I'm not like, there's romantic love, and if you felt that, and the passion involved in that, and a lot of times that's just like basically some kind of void that somebody's feeling for you. But even then, like, that love is a beautiful thing. Like, when you can just like love somebody to the point where it's like you can do whatever. I just love being in your presence. I just want you. That's a great and awesome feeling. Like, I don't know how else to, I don't know if there's needs to be anything more to be said about that. I feel like it's enough about that feeling where it's like, yo, I just want to love you. That feeling is great. And so, a lot, it's fear. Like, we fear that love a lot of times because, we can be hurt by it. So a lot of people are like, very cautious about it. But if you could just accept the possibility of the hurt, or, know that you can be hurt. I don't know. Maybe that would make it even less. No, maybe not. No. But that feeling is great. But also, it's not even romantic. Like the kind of love you have for your children, kind of love you have for your family members, that kind of love. Like, clearly, that's a great feeling. And then, but even then, like being loved, a lot of times we don't even realize how that can be tough. And that's what I mean by being yourself, accepting yourself enough to present yourself and saying, here's who I am, love that. And the people who love that, then that's when you could be like, yeah, you love that. You know what? That's a beautiful thing. And if we can get out of our own heads, our need for self-worth enough, that's what we would all be doing for one another. And we would have a very harmonious world. And so that, I think, is what needs to happen. It's like loving and being loved is also part of that freedom that I'm talking about. It's not just, the freedom to go out and buy and do all these other things, because there's a lot of folk who may be like, you know what? I am good in my one room shack. I am good in this commune that I have where we get up, we farm, or, I live with my family members in the woods out somewhere and we love each other. I don't need anything much more than that, because again, all of the feelings I can have in one place. I can hear the birds outside. I can feel the sun. I can, if I, live in a place that has seasons, I can feel the cold. I can see snow. Or if I want to, maybe I can walk there. Eventually, there are people who walked all across multiple different places. If I want to be in that place, I can just walk there. And so all of those feelings are available to you as well if you just want it, to not necessarily look for the financial freedom that gives you the ability to go out and be on boats and, climb mountains and all this other stuff and ski. You don't necessarily have to do it. I think it's an experience that's available, so why not? But the true freedom comes from the acceptance, the loving and being loved. In that, those two things, being grateful, having that kind of freedom that I'm speaking about, that right there for me is what it's going to take for you to be happy. Okay. And let me say a little bit more, because there's some thoughts in my head that I think I did not address. So for one, you have to fall in love with the struggle such that, every mountain peak that you reach, you're now on the search for another mountain peak, because that's just our nature. We are always looking for the challenge. We need the challenge. I want to make sure I did say that, but I want to make sure that I include that as part of what is necessary for you as you're seeking your freedom, to be like, you know what, I need to reach that next challenge. Like I remember watching Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey said, you know, he got to the point where he was like, you know, it's enough. I don't necessarily have to go.
I feel like, and this is something you might never hear another celebrity say as long as time exists. I have enough. I've done enough. I am enough.
Go out and get more. And maybe, I don't know exactly what he meant by that, because, you know, I wasn't the one he was speaking to, but like, you know, I imagine what he means is like, I don't need to chase fame anymore. I don't need to chase enough money. I have enough money. I don't need to chase any of that anymore. But I would imagine, if I could have asked him this question, you know, is what are other things that he thinks are worthy of pursuing? Like maybe it's the, you know, spreading the message to other people so that they can know what brings happiness to them, and how much, like if he were to now take on that challenge of spreading the news or whatever the case may be, then that could be a reason that, you know, he's like, okay, here's my next challenge. Here's the thing that's going to keep me satisfying this need that I have to take on some sort of challenge. And it's not necessarily because it's, you know, it's going to be what fulfills me, but this is part of the life that, you know, this is how we're designed to go on and take challenges. This is part of what the game is. And so loving that challenge, when you become one of these people who are like, oh, this is a challenge, okay, let me take that on. When you start to love those challenges, that's when, you know, first of all, like the struggle becomes part of the game. It becomes better for you. It becomes easier for you. Even not easier necessarily. It becomes more enjoyable for you. So you can experience that joy even in the midst of the struggle. Okay, the next thing I want to say is that I want to make sure that I touch upon is you know, the difference between like your short-term happiness that are like typically satisfied by like some animal urge, like our base self, and, you know, like what our bodies are asking for, as opposed to like what we ultimately want, you know, whether it's like sex, like going out and this is not to say that, you know, you shouldn't have sex. There's a lot of good benefits to sex, but like what I mean is like when we take a look at the lifestyles of the rich and famous, quote unquote, like the folks who are out here and entertainment, and we're thinking, okay, they're out here partying, all of the things that, you know, is so enticing to us, you know, or even in your own life. Like when you think about some of the things, like this is a holiday weekend and we have family coming over and all that good stuff, and, you know, there's going to be cookouts and, you know, parties and all that good stuff. And when we think about all those good times filled with alcohol, by the way, and I say that, by the way, because it's like, you know, alcohol is used as a way to, you know, remove inhibitions, which means that, you know, if you need that when you're hanging out with people, it just generally means that you're finding this to be a little tough, right? Like you're, you know, why would you need any assistance? I talk about this in another video, but like, why do you need any assistance if that part, that socializing is not, you know, a little tough as well? Right. And so you're removing that piece. You're using some substance to remove that piece. But in any case, like when we look back and we're like, wow, that part was so good. All of those things are releases. Like there are some things that you're going to do to release. And by release, I mean like whatever kind of tension, whatever kind of, you know, thing that is sitting there, like, you know, you're using that to release that thing. Like, oh, you know, I've been working all week, Monday through Friday. I just need some relaxation, as opposed to like true happiness, which is not just a release. And the difference is because let's imagine like you were partying all the time. Well, let's just say, let's just use another analogy, another example. Like another form of releasing is when you have to go to use number 2 or number 3. You have to shit, you have to piss. Like if you've been holding it for a long time, there's a tension building up, and now you've released it, feels good, right? This is the same thing that happens when like you have sex and you haven't had sex in a long time. Like there's a tension that's built up, sexual tension, release, feels good. But imagine you doing that every single day. Any one of those things that I mentioned, if you just kept on, well, not peeing, obviously we do pee and poo, practically every single day, but like if it just kept on happening over, like it just nonstop, you get to a point where it's like, this shit is not fun. And I say that to say that it's not necessarily fun when we're doing these things. It's a release because we don't necessarily get it all the time. And we're confusing the two things together. We're confusing that release with true happiness, when all it is like it's a release. And every once in a while you need a release, but you have to be mindful of what true happiness is, and that it does not come from those things. And if you're not working towards the things that come from true happiness, you're not going to get them. You can't snap your fingers and make them come. You have to go and build them, because that's how it's designed. This is the game. You have to go and build it. So true happiness is the freedom that comes from accepting yourself. It comes from the work of building something, of the challenges. It comes from not, it comes from the gratitude of not trying to change somebody's mind about you, but in constantly being at war. This is what I should have said. Being at war with yourself, comparing yourself to your ideal self. And that, if you're constantly doing that, every time that you win, every time that you battle yourself and win, you'll feel good. And eventually you'll build up enough of those wins that you can look back and be like, yeah, this is good. And that is what I think is the meaning of this life, and what's going to make you happy. All right. Thank you. Let's talk again next time. Bye-bye.